time is not your most valuable asset. Your focus is your most valuable asset. When you're able to create more than you consume, you'll become rich. Most people are only consuming. And they're not having the space to create ideas, create strategies, create systems, create products.
This is episode number 117 of The Inspiring Talk with Siddharth Rajsekar. Welcome back inside yet another episode of The Inspiring Talk. My name is Bijay Gautam. I'm your host for this show. Each week, I interview today's most successful and inspiring personalities to help you realize your inner potential. Today's guest, Siddharth Rajsekar, worked for 8 years in the corporate world before he was laid off. This musician turned digital geek today runs one of the largest communities of digital coaches in the country. He teaches people how to live a life of freedom by sharing their expertise online. He's also an author of the upcoming book, You Can Coach, where he decodes the steps to plan, launch, and grow a digital coaching business. He wants to reform the education system by building a new breed of digital leaders. Siddharth has helped several people achieve over 1 crore in revenue using his system. I have invited him to share his journey from being a struggling entrepreneur to building a $1 million online business. In our conversation, you will learn 3 fundamental things that helped him achieve this transformation. We also discuss how spirituality helps him succeed in his business and a lot more. Now, let's jump into the conversation. Siddharth, thank you so much for joining me.
Honored to be here, Bijay. Awesome. Great to be here.
Siddharth, if your life was turned into a movie, where would it begin?
It would begin at the point of when I failed my 12th grade. I still remember that day, walked into the hallway looking to see what my results are going to be. 12th board exams. I still remember it was in Bangalore. Did my PUC. I had butterflies in my stomach, walking towards the hallway, going to see with my hall ticket. Okay, am I really going to make it or not? I walk in there, look at the notice board, search for my name, and I saw 28F. Failed in maths.
Mm-hmm.
That was a starting point. And I want to start there because coming from a typical South Indian Tambram Iyer family, most of my relatives are all BE, MS, well-educated, all that stuff. And when this happened, it was like, can anybody be like a failure in the family? It was like the black sheep of the family. So it really hit me hard. And it went to a mode where I had to question myself, am I really intelligent, or what are people going to think about me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, what I was going through was really like a soul searching on what is this system all about? Why should I be judged based on this decision or this moment that has happened in my life? So from there on, like if I have to fast forward like exactly 1 year from that moment, luckily I saw a newspaper ad. It was an ad on how to make music, how to record music and stuff. It was a sound engineering course, 9-month diploma course. I found that ad a week after I failed my 12th. Only qualification for that was 10th pass. So I grabbed that opportunity, went there. Exactly 1 year from that moment when I saw my board exam results, in this course I scored 92%.
Wow. So a fish was being judged by its ability to climb the tree.
Absolutely. So I really felt at that moment, when I scored 92% and I got my job. My first job was when I was 19 years old. And even till today, all of you hearing, I don't have a degree next to my name. What I learned was, not just for me, but for everyone here, if you really love what you're doing, you will do good at it. And if you just push down a system, everybody has to do the same thing, the typical education formal system, that's where the dissonance is in our entire society. So I would like to start with that turning point.
I think I can't agree more on that, because one thing that I get to hear every single time that I have conversed with a person here on the podcast is, and it reinforces the thought again and again, and which is you don't have to follow one success template. So there are multiple success templates, and you don't have to even follow anyone else's success template. And you can create your own template. You can carve your own path. And for a moment, you can just, shut the outside voice and then just like that, hey, what is going to be my path? So you dropped out of your school or the traditional education system. Were your parents cool about it?
Not at all. At that point, there was a family wedding happening. And my uncle was getting married at that point of time. And all the relatives were at home. And the day that my board exam results were announced, so they were waiting for me to come back and share the results. And I still remember I did not know how to face them. I went straight into my bedroom, just locked myself up, and I was there. And they knew that there was something wrong. And my mother came to me. She said, "What happened?" And I said, "I failed." And it was a tough situation at that point. So yeah, so what happened after that was it was just another roller coaster ride. I was in the music industry for 3 years. Many of my close friends are working in Bollywood, Hollywood. Very close friend Henry is with A.R. Rahman, Chetan, all these guys. So my entire circle of influence completely changed in the music days, and I was doing really well at that point of time. Being a topper, I was teaching people who are like 40 years old. I was 19-year-old kid, teaching a 40-year-old how to make music, how to record on software, and DAWs and stuff like that. And it was an amazing journey. And the next part of the journey was even more interesting because 3 years I was doing this stuff teaching, and there were very few people who had the knowledge of music and technology, being able to reproduce that. So a company in Dubai called me in there to start making ringtones. I'm talking about the initial days, polyphonic ringtone days. I hope you remember those days, right? Those short codes
the
and all
Java
that.
phone and yeah.
So the secret I want to reveal to your audience here is I was the guy making those ringtones, and I used to supply ringtones to Reliance, Tata Indicom, Airtel. Of course, Nokia tunes are all different. That's like the previous gen, but this is the next gen. The polyphonic. So I would get these CDs from these movie companies like Sony Records and T-Series and all. They would send me the CDs. I would listen to them, and then I had to reproduce them into MIDI format and test them on right from the most junky device to like the Moto Razor, which was like the big thing in those days. So I used to test across like 10, 12 different devices, and that was a phenomenal experience. Going from the typical teaching world to the creation world, and yeah, that was a pretty interesting journey.
Wow. Sid, never let schooling interfere with your education. That was your grandfather quoting Mark Twain.
Yes.
So what's your grandfather's impact in your life, and how you have navigated through difficult phases in your life?
That particular quote is always going to be with me till my last day. Because I remember I was an 8-year-old kid, just 8 years old. I came back from school. I was studying in Bangalore, Bishop Cotton's. Came back one of the days, and Grandpa was sitting in the hall. I held his hand. I asked him the question. I asked him, "Tata, why should I go to school?" In fact, when I look back, I was probably a rebel right from my younger days. And now my son is asking me the same question. Why should I go to school? Why should I do this online Zoom school now? It's like, okay, fine. It's the same thing is coming back to me. So I asked my grandpa this question, and Grandpa, he looked into my eyes, he held my hands, and he said, "Never let schooling interfere with your education." And as an 8-year-old boy, I did not understand what he was saying, but he said, whether you're inside school or whether you're outside school, keep learning. And when I connect the dots backwards, I did not understand the power of his statement until I failed my 12th. Because otherwise it was just, schooling is important, formal education is important. But when I found this other course, did this course, and looked back, okay, this sound engineering course, even though I did it in an institute, the environment was very different. It was not like a teacher with a blackboard and chalk piece and telling you, looking down upon you. It was, most of the people who were teaching me were like my own age or slightly older than me. And it was a very friendly atmosphere and it was a different environment of learning. So that helped me grow fast. So when I look at that statement my grandpa made when I was an 8-year-old kid, I've been living that message till now. And that has become now the theme of my business also. It's like to help create this new breed of teachers who are not just mentors, but mentors or implementers, and who are creating that learning culture and environment.
Yeah. And I'm aware of the fact that, you have got your kids on alternative education methods. So what's your view on traditional education system? Yeah.
In fact, based on the journey that I went through, I had made a decision that when I'm going to have kids, I don't want them to go through the same thing, or I want to give them a different, environment to progress. So I have 2 boys now. My first son is he's 8 years, and the second son is now he's going to turn 3 tomorrow. Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
the interesting thing is, initially I was doing some research on other systems. I first stumbled into the Waldorf education system, which was in Bangalore. There's a school, and Steiner, school, where they teach through art. They make them art, they bring out their expression, and of course it's more like combined learning. They make the kids do different stuff. So I was really considering that, and I went to the open day. In fact, I had a close family friend who was also a teacher over there, and I really loved the whole methodology, because it's not about blackboard and sitting and completing portions and stuff. It's about helping them bring out their best. And in fact, the word education, the root word is from the word educare, which means to bring out. It is not to jam in, which is what the education system is right now. So I was looking at different ways how I can put them in those environments. But after I came to Chennai, I found the closest thing that could assist that is Montessori. So my first son has been in Montessori since from when he started. And I can see it's been a great journey for him, so far. Like now it's been 4 years in Montessori. Of course, they have different, primary, elementary, different forms. But see, again, this also has to do with the parent. It's not just about the schooling system or what they teach in school. It's a combination of both. So while Montessori has helped him understand, discovering himself, working on one thing for a long time, there's no periods, there's no bells, it's different. It's not a factory system. At home, I've been doing different things. For example, we watch TED Talks together. 2 is I play a lot of games with him together. So we do a lot of multiplayer games. So there's even that bonding between father and son is there, because we have finished a lot of games. Be it PS4, Nintendo Switch, Zelda, we have finished like a whole bunch of stuff together. And there's so much of lessons that you can learn through that, and it's amazing. So the way that I look at now, how I want to bring up my kid is let him experience the world, let him understand. And he's also watching a lot of YouTubers, influencers. So I'm totally cool with him checking it out, and I'm having conversations. Okay, what is good about this guy? Why do you like Preston? Why do you like guava juice? And there are so many of these big influencers, and he's explaining to me, and he's learning a lot of stuff. So we are also doing a lot of Minecraft into that world, building different worlds. In fact, last week we built a 3-story house in Minecraft together. So I did the outer frame. This guy built the interiors. The entire thing. So this is how I look at bringing up the next generation. And I think it's just a matter of time. In the next maybe 2-3 years, he can start building his own business, and he can start really creating something of value of his own. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when I look back at my own education journey, and I'm yet to get married, so having the child is like a few years away, but still I think a lot about how should we really look at educating our kids, because
yes,
clearly the system that we went through is not gonna help them to survive in the world that's coming. And especially, we are the certain kind of, the people who are listening to the podcast are the kind of people who are at a certain level of consciousness, who know what's going on around the world, right? And the same thing, it's just gonna put you on a certain traditional career path. You are just limited with the options, and you are just supposed to see with your blinds on. And then you just see, straight and just see a direction. But yeah, that absolutely makes sense to look at the alternative ways to kind of educate, your kids. So you were in Dubai making ringtones, and then in 2011, your wife, she was 3 months pregnant.
Yes. No, that was another turning point of my life, because I worked in the corporate world. Yeah, I got fired. Got the pink slip. I worked in the corporate world for 8 years. From being a ringtone maker to building a team of 50 guys, grew up my way up, worked my way up. And one day the boss calls me into this cabin and says, "Sid, I'm sorry to tell you that, you've been a great employee in this company, but this division does not exist anymore. I'm so sorry, I have to let you go." Like, what? I mean, we've built this for so long. And at that point of time, the VAS industry was actually going down. iPhone had kicked in, and there was a big transition happening in this mobile space. And I was dependent on that job. Wife was 3 months pregnant. I went back home. I told her, "Vanita, I lost my job." And then she just pointed at her stomach and she said, "What do we do about this?" And at that moment, it was one of those moments I had to make a decision. The decision was, should I get back to a job, or should I start a business? Can I do something that I have better control over my own life? And again, thanks to family support, that phase, those 3 months, I set up my small agency. In fact, I did a lot of online courses. I did a lot of internet marketing courses during that phase. This is like 2011 August till end of that year, and those 6 months I did a lot of intensive learning. And by beginning of 2012 I set up my agency, like just three of us. My business partner, she's also my cousin, and then just three of us, we set up a small agency. And I had learned WordPress building and some stuff, and I built some websites and stuff. So I decided at that point of time, okay, no more job, let me start my business. And that was another turning point. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then you started a business, and for the next 7 years, 7 years, you were an entrepreneur. So, in this journey of 7 years of becoming an entrepreneur, now when you look back and you say, like, things were not going right for you. And, like a lot of people who feel that, what, I think becoming an entrepreneur is a cool thing where you have more control over your own, life, right? Where you can take your own decisions. And then, that's what you did. But did it turn out the way you thought that entrepreneurship is going to give you the security or the freedom that you've always wanted for? So maybe, you can also share your journey and also share, just is that decision of saying that I'm now going to quit my job and become an entrepreneur, is that enough? Was it enough for you?
The answer is the journey was never what I thought it would be. And all of you here listening also, you have the aspiration, you're looking up to people like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and all these big guys. Okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. And then you get into this journey. I'll just tell you what happened in my case. Okay, so the first 1 or 2 years was the exciting phase. Exciting in the sense, okay, I'm starting something new. We are building something new. And there was a lot of passion in the business. Okay, the money was not there. We were getting a small team, just 3-4 of us. Whatever projects would come. In fact, what I was drawing from my company, I was only able to make 1/3 of that on the entrepreneur journey. So I had to really cut down my whatever income I used to get as a salary versus starting the business. So I had to go through that grind. So I did that, but the passion was there for the business. So it was a creation phase. Then what ended up happening is we started to add more and more team members. Project came in, things started to slowly build and grow from 2-member team to 10-member team to 15-member team. And then next set of challenges came in, like how do you manage people now? How do you manage people issues now? How do you get better at delegation, all that stuff. So the whole project management and that next phase came in. And then the phase after that was we started to see an attrition in clients and attrition in people. And that went on for 2, 3, 4 years. I would say 3 years easily. And year number 7, it hit me really hard because I was thinking, I started my business thinking I should be my own boss. But year number 7, I have 35 bosses. I don't have any freedom. After paying all my teams, paying real estate, rent, taxes, tools, advertising, all that put together, when I would take my wife out for a dinner, I would look on the menu card and whichever was the cheapest item, I would buy that because I did not have cash flow. Hit me really hard. And then I began to question myself, should I have really come on this journey of entrepreneurship? I could have been happier in a job and doing the typical stuff. But again, I think that was needed for me for that reality check. At that moment, I realized that what I was facing was not to blame anybody but myself. I had to face my own self. Because I was not running it like a proper business. And I was not working on myself. I was not looking at growing that business and scaling it to profitability. I was looking at just running it for the sake of running it and taking care of people. That's when I decided, okay, let me now transition from that mode into building a product-based business where I want to focus on freedom. I want to build a business now without any office or employees. I would like to have employees, but I want to keep it lean and mean and focus more on profits and less on all the frills and the external stuff that is there. I want to move away from a services business to a product business. And that's when I found my mentor. And this was in 2018 January. 2018 Jan, what I used to draw from my company was 75,000, 1 lakh rupees a month. Exactly in 4 months, by April, May, June, I was making more than 13 to 15 lakhs per month. My income has never dropped from there because of implementing 3 ideas that I got from my mentor, 3 principles. And those principles really changed my life. Yeah.
What are those? Let's jump into each of those principles one by one. And I think for the entrepreneurs who are listening to this, so the people who are at job, who are looking at jumping into entrepreneurs, or maybe early entrepreneurs like myself, who are early in the entrepreneurship journey, we don't have to go through the 7 years of grind like you did to come up with these 3 lessons, right? So that we can learn from the mistakes that you have made. So what would be those 3 key lessons from this phase of your life where you were really struggling?
Please take note of this. It may seem very elementary, but there's magic in simplicity. I just want to tell you that. The first principle, my mentor said, his name is Vic Strizes. He is from the US, and I was watching one of his webinars, and something clicked in that webinar. I've been getting all his emails and stuff, but I never really implemented what he said. In that webinar, I decided I'm going to surrender to this one guy, because he was, at that point of time, he was doing at least $1 million a month, okay, around 5 to 7 crores a month in the knowledge business, which I wanted to model and emulate for myself. So I decided, okay, if this guy is going to ask me to stand on one leg and send an email, I will do that. If he would tell me to take my right hand, put on my right ear and record videos, I will blindly follow that, because this guy is getting results. First principle, he said, time is not your most valuable asset. Your focus is your most valuable asset.
Super powerful.
Boom. I had a bulb on moment. I just thinking, okay, I've been spending so much of time on my business, but I really never focused on one thing. I was just jumping around like one butterfly. Like I was following like 10 people on YouTube. I would buy like 4 or 5 different courses. Without completing one course, I would buy the next course or whatever. I was just running that hamster wheel thinking, okay, this next thing is going to make me successful, without really focusing on finishing what I started. So the first principle I implemented into my life is focus. And I'll tell you how I practically implemented it. Number one is I unsubscribed from all emails and all other people's email lists. I decided to follow just one mentor for 90 days and to take his teachings to the finish line. That's the first. Second principle, what I incorporated is I took out my phone and I deleted all the social media apps. For a long time, I never had Instagram on my phone, none of that stuff. Because what I learned from him is that when you're able to create more than you consume, you will become rich. Most people are only consuming.
Yeah.
And they're not having the space to create ideas, create strategies, create systems, create products, that they can sell. So for those 90 days, when I followed him, I unsubscribed from email lists, I deleted social media apps, I decided to follow one mentor, one system, and I applied focus. Now, focus, it's a very theoretical. Everybody can say, okay, you should have more focus, but practically, this is how you can implement it.
Wow. And absolutely. And I think what I see a lot of us struggle with is shiny object syndrome. Like there is a new thing that's in the market and I'm going to hop from this to that. And the whole thing about fear of missing out. Oh my God, Clubhouse is the new thing. Should I just really stop, podcasting and go to Clubhouse? Or maybe, I have been blogging and I think nobody's reading blog. Maybe I think, I should go and start making Instagram reels, right? So hopping from one thing to another, even in the content creation space that I took example from. And the same happens with us, right? Where we go on, let's say, a book writing seminar one day thinking that I'm going to write a book. And then, we come back and go for something else, and we never implement one idea, never hang on to, one thing for long enough for it to show results. And I think that's a very, very important thing. Like, just focus on only one thing.
Absolutely.
And, just go all into it and give it a time, because everything worth having or keeping takes time. And in this world where you order something and if it doesn't deliver at your doorstep at 30 minutes, you just go gaga saying that, where the hell is my order?
Yes.
I think it's difficult to do, but I think, that's a great point.
Absolutely. And to add to what you're saying is, again, my mentor said that anything that comes easy is not worthwhile. And anything that's worthwhile does not come easy. You have to go through that. Okay. That's a beautiful point, like correlating with what he said. Which leads me to the second principle now. The second principle that I implemented. He said, systems work, people fail. At first, I did not understand what he was saying. But when I looked at my life, when I was on my own, I was failing because I was not following one system. And I give this example to the members in my community also. Like, if somebody gives you a 6-step recipe to make a pizza, and if you change the order of that recipe, you're not going to get a pizza. You're going to get something else. And that's what I mean by system. So when I went through his programs, he clearly said, do this first, and then you do this second, do this third, do this fourth. And I just needed to follow it. And that's what got me results. But the problem in today's day and age is there's so much happening on YouTube that somebody takes one piece from here, another piece from there, and they try to put it all together and it becomes like one big khichdi itself. It does not take them to the end goal because you're not following one path. The person you're learning from maybe successful, there's no doubts, but you're taking elements from multiple places. So I tell my students also this, all of you are watching, you do not lack knowledge. You can go on YouTube, you can swim in there for 24 hours in a day and get even more confused. What people lack today is not knowledge. It is lack of focused implementation and mentorship and following a proper system. That went into my head, and I've completely applied this system, and that started to move the needle in my business. So focus is the first principle. Following the system, second principle.
Yeah.
You want to dig deeper into that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So from your own journey, before even you started talking about these two things that you've already shared, one thing that already stands out, I'm not sure if audience kind of were able to find that on what you shared, is that you picked a mentor first.
Yes.
And you decided that, I'm going to follow this guy who already has got a result. Why would I go and reinvent the whole wheel if I have someone who have been through the journey, who have made the mistakes? If Sid is here saying that, I made that mistake for the 7 years of being an entrepreneur and I wish I knew these 3 things, then I don't have to be an entrepreneur for 7 years to make the same mistakes, to realize and learn these same 3 lessons, which Sid is going to tell me in maybe 7-hour course or maybe a 7-minute talk or maybe this, 70-minute interview.
Yes.
So I think that's a great observation in that, which I see as a common trait between a lot of successful people. True. Is that if you want to go from A to B, sure, you can do it all by yourself. You don't need anyone. You can figure it out. Today's is, like as you said, information is out there and you don't need anyone to help you go from A to B. But the reason you need someone is because that person can help you go from A to B in the shortest, quickest possible way. Yes. And will just warn you that, hey, you are not going to make the mistakes that I made. Okay. And these are the results it took me 10 years to get, but you guys can get it in 1 year because now I'm going to give you what I've learned in the 10 years.
Absolutely. In fact, that's exactly what my mentor also says, that, he had taken 10 years to figure out his formula. I just needed to follow that, and I implemented it and I got results in 3 months. Because a mentor actually helps you cut short the learning curve. And the other thing to add to this is, when you pick a mentor, don't just pick a mentor based on their results. I picked him for his value system, what he believed in, how he looked at the world. Like, he's also a family guy, spiritual guy. There's a lot of charitable stuff that he does. So besides making money, I was able to look at the other side of the spectrum and what his values are. And I chose him because of that. Because if I was just going to pick a mentor based on income, okay, so who was making most money, let me follow him. There were so many people that I could not resonate with, honestly. And today there are so many, this flashy stuff, you don't even know if what they are doing is true or not. So many influences are popping up. So I think I want to add that dimension is, picking a mentor is important, but pick a mentor not just based on their results, but also what is their value system. And you can see through it. Once you just watch a few videos, listen to their podcast, you'll get to know that. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's move to the third one here, where, number 1, focus on one thing. Number 2, system work. People fail. So follow the system that has the proven track record of success. And I love that you have added one more layer to the whole mentor thing, because we talk a lot about on this show about how do you go about picking a mentor. And I think that's a new perspective where when you pick the mentor, obviously, sure, you want to have someone as a mentor who has got the results. But I think it's equally important for you to know how that person is as a human, right? Yes. How human that person is. And I think the value system, can you relate with the value system of that person or not? I think that's really important. Awesome.
Okay. The third point was a nuclear explosion in my head. He said, don't be cheap on your journey towards greatness.
Oh.
Okay. And I'll tell you how cheap I used to be. I used to download, I'm a software guy, right? I'm a sound engineer. I used to download cracked softwares. I used to torrent courses, movies. The day I heard this from him, I said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to be cheap on my journey towards greatness. Because before that, I used to think I'm overly smart, trying to get these $10,000 courses through torrents and go through them and stuff. But, that time I was broke.
Yeah.
And the day I started to invest in my learning, invest in tools, even if I know there's a torrent out there, I would still go and buy the course. I think you would agree with me with this. What goes around comes around. Whether you want to call it Newton's law, karma theory, whatever you want to call it, that element, it has a big play, not just from a theory perspective, but even in your business. So even from when I started my business, everything is 100% compliant. I pay my taxes on time, GST. In fact, I got my GST number even before I was making 20-40 lakhs a year. because I wanted to make that into a habit right from the month one, that I cannot treat this like some hobby. If I'm treating this like a business, it'll treat me back like a business. If I'm treating it like a hobby, it'll treat me back like a hobby. That's the lesson I got from when he said, don't be cheap on your journey towards greatness. Huge lesson I learned.
And also the other thing that I see in this one is the amount of time that you're going to waste or spend in finding this stuff, or maybe just, hacking that software or cracking that software, or maybe, just figuring out where do I find this free stuff. Then you are constantly looking for that. And, the amount of time that you're going to kind of spend is something that you can better utilize on maybe implementing and creating something better. And also, I think it's the question that you can ask yourself, like, is it even worth my time to, go through all of that?
Yeah.
And when you go through that route, then obviously you don't have the kind of support that you will get when you are the paid customer of any product or service or the program, right? So when you go for the paid route, then you have the support system, you have the thing that are paid. If it's about course, then, maybe I can find the course of someone else for free wherever, but I'm not going to find the community. I'm not going to find those. So
True.
And content is cheap. And that's something that I truly believe in. Content is cheap. Like, whatever you want to learn, content is cheap. What comes expensive is the support and the community and hand holding. That's what, people do charge for. And because you work with a lot of coaches and trainers and mentors, and people think that, oh my God, I have this content, exclusive content. Nobody cares about the content, right? Give it for free. Like, put it out there for free. Nobody's going to get result. Because, unless you hold them accountable, unless you push them, you have to kick butt of the people even after they pay you. And I'm sure you know this, Sid, right? You know this. You have 11,000 people, the part of the community, and the amount of effort that you have to put even after they paying you the money to get them to make action. And if somebody thinks that, just by getting something for free, I can, get result, I think that's clearly not going to happen.
Not at all. In fact, I have two important nuggets within this point itself. First is, when you are going on a road and then you take the toll road where you have to pay and get on that road, that's going to get you much faster than trying all the side roads. Okay, so sometimes it's better to pay and get on the fast track. It's going to be much faster than you trying to figure things out versus what I was trying to do, like I mentioned, trying to search for these torrent and stuff like that. And there's one more important thing that hit me really hard later on is you are going to be the reflection of your customer. If you are doing all this kind of cheap stuff, you can be 100% sure that your customers will also do the same thing with you. You are a mirror of your customer. So because I'm paying and buying everything, and I set this as a code of honor in my community, you know what? Never just get something for free. If you feel that's valuable, let the person, there has to be a value exchange for people to value the information, right? And because of that, when I look at my results now, in 27 months, the $2 million in sales, that's happened because I'm continuously investing in myself. So my students are behaving the same way also. They're investing in me. You're getting the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You cannot expect your students to pay you if you want to be a mentor unless you are investing in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Super powerful. And I think we're going to kind of take a bit of a back step here. So 2018 is when, the whole new journey for you started, where you started implementing these ideas and found a mentor for yourself, and things started turning around for you. And you have been in the game for like almost 10 years now, 2011, till 2021. That's like 10 years of you being in the journey. And, in 2015, you had a panic attack. You were an overworked entrepreneur working really hard to pay your team, to make profits, to keep your clients. And then, you were an overworked entrepreneur. So, and then, spirituality is the other thing that you hold really dear to you, and is something that has really helped you in your journey. So what has been the role of spirituality in your life and how it helps you as a business person?
2015, I went through a major panic attack because I was overworked, not eating on time, sleeping like haywire, just always thinking about making things work. And one day it just hit me like pretty hard. I could not go to sleep for 2 weeks. I was in this state of insomnia and this anxiety and fear. So when I would just think about sleeping, the fear would again kick in. So it was pretty bad. I went to a few doctors. I went to an Ayurvedic doctor, and he said, this is purely mismanagement of your lifestyle habits, food habits. Your entire body has been, it's an imbalance, it's in a state of imbalance. That's why it's affecting your sleep first. So I had to go through this entire, I went to this Panchakarma treatment, 10 days, completely detoxed myself. And I had to go back to spirituality at this point. And when I say go back, I've been brought up with spiritual values. Used to be, doing meditations since the age of 10, 11, 12, but I had lost touch, because of this work and stuff like that. So I went back into doing my own meditations, reading scripture, and just understanding the position not from the point of where the problem is, but trying to rise myself above the problem. I think there's nothing else that can do it, but for having some kind of inclination to spirituality. Now, whatever you may believe in, that's, you can choose whatever process works for you. But for me, the process was a mantra meditation, japa meditation. And every time I would do that, I would feel a sense of solace and connection from within. And I think it took me around 3 to 4 months to completely come out and be normal as a person. Otherwise, it was always in a state of anxiety and fear before that. So spirituality has played a huge role for me. And I have to thank my parents for giving me that, the seed of spirituality at a young age, because it goes back when I was 8 to 10 years old. My father was an alcoholic, and every night I would see my mother cry, and I would see a different side of my father. And my mother went to an astrologer once and asked, is this ever going to stop? Because it was very bad, and I grew up in that phase in my life where there was a lot of insecurities. My dad was like a Jekyll and Hyde story. Like, he would be amazing, loving father in the daytime, and the night he would turn to somebody else. And thanks to my mother's spiritual bringing into the family, she brought in spirituality into the family. She started meditating. She started to give my father tulsi water without his knowledge. Within 3 years, he quit. I mean, I could see the transformation in my father happening.
Wow.
Because of the spiritual faith and the practice that my mom was doing. And she allowed my dad to be who he was. But then just that atmosphere, right? It changed the entire thing for us as a family. And I saw my father transform in front of my eyes. So by the time I was age 12, my dad was completely clean. He was more deeper into spirituality. And then they introduced me, and I was just, getting more tuned with the scripture. I used to read Gita, Bhagavad Gita. I used to conduct children's classes and stuff. We would have study groups as kids, read and discuss and debate and stuff. So that was, I felt, that has played a huge role in my, in my life, the spiritual foundation. And when you ask me, how does it connect to business? For me, spirituality and business is completely interconnected. Because in my community right now, with over 11,000 members, we have a rule that 10% of whatever you earn after paying taxes should go towards charity. And in the last few months, we have given more than 2 crores in charity as a community during these times. Okay. Which I'm able to document. There are many people who have given but not documented, but I just have a Google form where I'm collecting, okay, how much are you giving? And people are giving towards food, health, education, and stuff like that. So charity is one part of spirituality, but also understanding who am I as a person and why am I doing this. So for me, my business it's become more like a mission. So when I say freedom business model, a lot of people think, okay, freedom is how do you achieve financial freedom? Okay, that's the first level. How do you achieve time freedom? That's the next level. How do you get free from the cycle of birth and death? That's the ultimate. So for me, I'm always thinking about that in the back of my mind. Like, how can I build a business where I'm able to incorporate personal transformation of an individual so that they can contribute to others, they can uplift society. So there is going to be a karmic points over there. Like, if I can help somebody else, there's going to be some karmic reaction there. In fact, there's a video on my YouTube channel on business and karma. I go deep into this. There are like 6 levels of karma related to business. I go deep into and I share. And then how can I make my students be contributors to create a social impact and also get spiritually inclined? So if they can pick whatever faith practice that they are attuned to, then their material activity in so-called external vision becomes into a spiritual activity. And for me, my big inspiration is Arjuna from the Gita, right? He wanted to quit. He wanted to say, okay, I don't want to fight in this war. I'll just go into the forest. And Krishna said, you're a number one fool. You should be doing your duty. You should be right on the forefront. You're a warrior. You're a Kshatriya. You cannot just back off like this.
Yeah.
Or I would say externally, Arjuna's actions and Duryodhana's actions were the same, fighting in the war. But the intent was different. Arjuna was fighting for Krishna. Duryodhana was fighting for his own self-interest. That's how I look at business. Business, you can externally be ambitious, grow, do whatever you want. But why are you doing all of this? That's something you need to discover.
Yeah. And I must say, at this point of time, like I have interacted with so many experts in the country and also at the international scale as well. And one thing that I admire about the way you do things is the way you look at things in a holistic way, right? It's not just about, while it's about making money, but it's not just about making money.
Yes.
It's about like you are making people to, think about like why they want to do it, and making people to donate to the charities, so that build that kind of thought in their head where it's not only about you. Now, if you have enough, then you don't build a bigger walls, as they say, you build a longer chairs, right? So longer table,
Yes.
where you share it with other people as well. And I think that's something that I really admire about you. And I wanted to understand how you got into the spirituality, and do you still meditate? How often do you meditate? And what is the usual practice that you do? You mentioned chanting,
Yes.
meditation, and I love doing that, especially when I'm feeling low and I need to raise my vibration. I find chanting meditation where, and I could be chanting anything. I could be chanting whether simple mantra, or I could be just chanting anything, and it all of a sudden it kind of
Yes.
raises my vibration. So what are some of your practices that you do?
I'll just tell you like a little bit of a background. See, I studied in a convent school, and I've sung in the school choir for 6 years. Okay, so I really loved Christianity. I was influenced by the Lord's Prayer and a lot of things that I went through. Okay, even though I come from a typical, South Indian Tam Bram, Iyer family and stuff, but the Christian influence was huge in my younger days, and I was more open. So I'm very open to understanding and learning from other cultures. So I've read the Bible during my school days. Then I went to Dubai for a few years. I was amazed by how Islam was. And in fact, the place where I was working, I would see my fellow workers in Dubai Internet City. They would have a prayer room. They would go pray 5 times a day. And I was really amazed by how, in spite of being in like a top high-tech place, they would never negotiate on their time with God. So that was amazing. I really learned a lot. And then, of course, because of my upbringing, connected with the Hare Krishna movement. So I've been reading the Gita. I've read the Srimad Bhagavatam. I've read some of these other scripture. So I'm able to see all of these different faiths. They are all sending out the same message, and the different messengers who came in at different periods of time. And I look at spirituality also. There are 2 schools of thought. You have the non-religious spiritualists and then religious spiritualists. My choice is being in the religious spiritualist. Okay, so the Vedic version, and it's not about religion here. It is about Vedic lifestyle. Sanatan Dharma has been there for years. It's not about judging people based on their caste, creed, color, where they're born and stuff. So I was really, the more I studied these scripture, I got to understand that it is actually so much more open-minded than just being fanatic in religion, because religion conveys an idea of faith, and faith can change. Yeah. So it's never about religion. It's about personal transformation. So what I follow as a practice is again mantras. I do mantra chant. I also have like an altar at home. So when it comes to yoga, there are different processes of yoga. There is karma yoga, there's jnana yoga, and there's bhakti yoga. So I've adopted, out of personal preference, the path of bhakti yoga, and I want to use everything for the service of the Lord. And even in spirituality, there's personalism and there's impersonalism. Some people believe in the end goal being impersonal, or a light that they would like to merge into. And then you have another school of thought where you can have a relationship with the personality of God. And both are true. It's just a matter of when you go in Dubai Terminal 3, you can pick whichever flight you want to take. It's your choice. But the beauty is the end goal can be, it's a decision that you need to make based on who you are able to incline with. So for me, my personal preference has been mantra chanting and following the process of bhakti yoga, and simultaneously being open to learning from all other cultures, because every messenger who's come on this planet, they've come with a purpose, and there's something to learn from them. Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing that, which you not necessarily talk a lot about, but, which I can see is, while you mentioned that it making $2 million in revenue in the last 12 years, but at the same time, you are a big believer of not owning a lot of things, where, living the life of minimalism, right? So share with us about that. Like, how come, the whole idea of minimalism, and I think it connects with the spirituality and the deeper rooted belief that you have and the grounding that you have in the spirituality.
True. I got in touch with the concept of minimalism around 4 years back. I was following the minimalist Joshua Becker, like a few influencers in the minimalist space, and I really loved their concept, because the purpose of making money is to create more impact, according to me. It is not like what you said, is not just build bigger walls, but to create longer chairs and tables to help others. And ever since I adopted minimalism, when I moved from Bangalore to Chennai, I gave away 80% of all my stuff and clothes to blind school, and I just thought, okay, let me just do it. Because there was a lot of stuff in my wardrobe that I've not used for 2 years, 3 years. And I was wondering, why am I just keeping that when I'm not using it? Right now in my wardrobe, I just have like 5 of these Nike shirts, white. I've got 5 blacks, couple of blues, 1 red, got 4 pairs of Levi's jeans, and of course my undergarments. That's it. Okay. So I have very few things for myself. And for occasions, if I have to wear like a coat or something, I've got very few. So my personal belongings are very less. And in case I buy something new, I like to give away something. Now, I don't impose this on my wife. Okay, it's only my personal preference. Okay, I want to get a lot of stuff, but of course she's also not a hoarder type. We both synchronize in that as well. But the principle was, I felt so much more lighter. It's like the concept of having less and doing more. And ever since I adopted minimalism, I just felt I was more in my flow, because I realized after learning from all of these, when I was able to connect spirituality and minimalism and all that, I realized that when there's a lot of physical junk in your place where you live, it represents the emotional junk. And when you're able to clear the clutter, you'll be able to see what you really want. And I've seen that work like magic. Ever since I've cleared up my space, have less things for myself, it gave me better clarity on what I wanted in my life. And it just beautifully started to synchronize even with my spiritual thoughts, where I don't want to make money just to hoard. Because sometimes people misunderstand spirituality as, okay, making money is too bad, all this kind of paradigms that have been installed. Or money is the root of all evil and stuff like that. But no, money is just a tool. And it's great to be ambitious, but as long as you know that you're not using it just for your sense gratification. Yes, we need to have the basic stuff that we want, but when you're able to use it for creating impact, that's a big motivator for me. So minimalism and all of this is just fit in so well into my life's puzzle. Yeah.
So here you are saying that you were an entrepreneur who wanted to make money, and by the time when you started in 2018, so the first time you had a kid in 2011, you were kicked out of your job, and in 2018 when you were about to have the second son, you were getting into this path of getting freedom, where you were building the freedom business model, as you call it. And then you wanted to bring your son with the best thing that you can do as a dad, right? Now that you have been in a situation where you have that comfort of having money in your life,
yes,
right, where you don't have to worry about where's the next thing that you want to have in your life that's gonna come from, right? You don't have to worry about money. You have a way of freedom from that, right? And I know that you have, as we discussed, mentioned a couple of times, like you have 11,000 people who are in the community who are learning from you, and you want to create 100,000 people living the life of freedom where they don't have to worry about all of these things, right? But what is the ultimate end game, as they call it? Like, what's the end game that you are playing, and what is the end game that you are aiming for? Let's say you have done all of this. You have created 100,000 people who are living the life of freedom. You have made all your money. You have your spiritual practices going deep, and then you served so many people. What is the end goal that you are looking at?
Is to bring about a golden age. And I'll explain to you this on a deeper level, because I've thought a lot about this, because everything, it leads to the next thing. Okay. So based on my background, my story, the first step is I want to prove to the world that there is an alternate path to achieve success, not through the formal education system. Formal education system does its part, but you can create a lifestyle of your choice by stepping into your passion and doing things that you really love to do. Okay. But for that to happen, you need to have the right mentors, the right teachers, the people who can really bring about that change. So the first piece of this entire, game plan that I have is to reform and create a new breed of teachers and mentors. And that's the purpose of my community. So when we're able to create the next breed of teachers, mentors, who are not just mentors, but who are implementers themselves and who are building communities themselves, now that's going to be the first phase of this entire journey. The second phase, what's going to unfold is, right now, easily I can say there are at least 400 to 500 of members from these 11,000 people who are building their own tribes now. They have tribes of 200, 300, 400 people within their own communities. So the internet is like a big ocean, and Facebook is like a big continent sitting on that, in the big continent. What I want to do is I want to help people create their own islands. Like I have my own island, you have your own island, somebody else has their own island. My island is about digital coaching, your island is about podcasting. So you're going to be creating all these small islands which are going to be created. And these islands are going to be like places where people can come, they can get nourishment, they can get value, they are a part of a community, they're growing. So that's the second phase of the game. What I'm looking at is all these different islands being sprouting in. The third phase of the game is where these islands start to support each other, cross-pollination. It's already happening right now. Like I get invited to somebody else's tribe, and then I invite them to my tribe. And recently, like Success Gyan, we did an event called Super Growth Summit. We had 13 of us speakers, and all of us came together and we did an event together. It was 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Amazing. So now we are cross-pollinating these tribes and serving each other's communities without competition, all our collaboration. Now, when that happens, first outcome of this is the education system is going to get revamped, because the new wave of education is this, learning from mentors or implementers. When this happens, people will start to align themselves to more meaningful, purposeful living. They'll be more aligned. They're not just going to go and work for the sake of making money, but they're going with a purpose to be fulfilled and also contribute back. And when this happens, I do not know how long it will take, but even if it takes 10, 15 years, we will see a golden age in this world. That's the end game for me.
Wow. I love that. And I think, the whole idea about, we discussed about the traditional education system and, the problems that you see with the traditional education system, and kind of saying that this is the only one success path that we have. And we have seen a lot of people right now being more and more open, and even parents being open for their kids going out and experimenting with the things. And also for people to realize that I don't have to do this one thing for the rest of my life. I can go and learn something else, right? Right now, I love doing podcasting and I'm doing it, but maybe, in 5 years, I might be doing something else. And I know that, it's okay for me to do whatever I want to do in next 5 years, right? Right now, maybe, you are teaching people to become a digital coach, and maybe, you want to still achieve the same goal, but might be the modes and means could be totally different based on what's going to come up in the future. And, constantly being adapting to what's new and just constantly adding value, right? So for you to influence people, right? And I'm not talking about obviously the Instagram influencers doing the makeup in front of the camera and calling themselves influencers, but influencers in the real sense, right? Where when you ask people to do something, they do follow you because they have a high level of respect and trust for you, and because you have added tremendous amount of value to these people. So that, they know that, whenever you ask them to do something or whenever you do something, then they want to blindly follow you because you have added immense value and build that connect with them, right? So how can someone build that kind of influence where people really can become like a real life influencers?
I actually have an answer to this, because I've studied religious movements, I've studied political movements. And I've studied also, even if you look at Simon Sinek's TED Talk on how, the why, and how when leaders operate from inside out, like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, they operated on a totally different level, which really created revolutions.
Yeah.
It's not a marketing gimmick. It is genuine core. They're operating from a core. So I want to detail out, there are 6 steps. In fact, I've analyzed this, the 6 steps to taking your message and making it into a movement. The first step is, it has to operate from your core. Like you need to have a story that is in alignment with your mission. Okay, so you need to have a core message. Okay. Second step is that core message has to be made very clear. For example, for me, my core message right now is I want to redefine the education system and employment system by building a new breed of teachers. So that's the core message. But the core was the experience that I went through in schooling system. And that's why the core message has been formed. So we need to go through an experience to bring out a message. Okay, so the second step is to make your message very crystal clear. The third step is to start rallying. So if you look at political rallies or you look at spiritualists, right? They go and rally. They go and speak to the audiences. And today the rallying is like what we are doing. We are podcasting, you have webinars, you have videos, you have so many different media now to rally, as compared to the olden days where, Gandhiji would have had to go to some village and people would come and he would talk about it. Okay, talk about his vision. So the rallying is the third step. The fourth step is, once we are rallying, the fourth step is you'll start to attract a few people who believe in what you believe in. So it is not about you, it is about what you believe in. So people need to align with your value system. So you'll get this initial set of followers. That's the fourth step. Once you get those followers, the fifth step is important. You have to now empower the leaders who are coming out of those followers. So when you're attracting the followers, when you're nurturing them, like even in my community, they're able to resonate with my vision and they're building their own communities. But now they want to serve our own community. So we have a whole bunch of facilitators where they're coming in, we're doing meetups and stuff. So even if you look at Gandhi or look at all the other political movements, the second line of leaders come in and then the leaders are empowered. And step number 6 is where the leaders carry forward the movement. Look at even spiritual organizations. Let's look at Jesus Christ. He was the guy who came in, he had this message, he had his 12 disciples. Then it's become a revolution. Now, it's all over the world. So the leadership will carry forward the vision of the leader. So that's how a message becomes into a movement, and it always comes from a core. I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really important that you say that, it always comes from core. You yourself are a digital coach and you are looking at getting, this new breed of teachers who are going to be the coaches. And a lot of people want, get into it because of the short-term vision, right? I want to make quick buck. And you see a lot of people doing that. And every other person today who knows a thing or two about anything, they are an expert on that and, they are a coach. And I have seen that, right? I have seen that, people kind of calling themselves a coach of certain thing for 2 months. And then the person all of a sudden is coach of something else and something else. Just because they are, again, hopping from one place to other, being more opportunistic than saying that why do you deeply care about this certain thing? And if you really don't care about that one thing and you are not passionate in the sense that, you really can add value and wanna go deep into it, and that's not going to help, right? So,
absolutely, yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that because people, when they come in, even for me, like my marketing hook is how you can make money as a digital coach. But once they come inside, they realize that they have to work on themselves. If you have to make money, you got to work on yourself. And so that's how the journey is. And when I say work on themselves, they need to first align themselves to what goal they want to achieve. They need to have a mindset of giving versus getting, like no hunter mindset. This is all about farming. Okay, you cannot go out there just to get more sales. You got to plant the seeds of value. You got to nurture the seeds, and it may take time. So all those concepts get injected once they come into the conveyor belt. Once they come inside the system. But until then, But and again, there are many people, like you said, they may not be able to find their niche right in the first go. So they try one, it doesn't work, then they try the next. And that is their journey of self-discovery. Like, for example, for me, I started with affiliate marketing as my first niche. And then I got success in affiliate marketing. And then I realized after I built a small, sizable community, I was getting feedback from the community. Then I realized, okay, this is what I want to do next. So my entire business, if you ask me, it has evolved based on what needs my community had from me. So that's the different game. So I'm totally with you on this. And I'm pretty sure many people are on that journey of trying to discover what it is. But once you hit it, I think you have to just stick on it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Super. So first question to you about the digital coach, because also, you're coming up with your book called You Can Coach. How do you plan, launch and grow digital coaching business into a 6 figures a month? Is it possible for anyone to become a coach?
The answer is a big yes. The reason why is because everyone is born with a unique set of abilities, skills and talents in this world. And it's just a matter of identifying what that is and structuring that in a particular way so that you can serve somebody else. Now, there are different grades of coaches. When I say grades, a coach does not mean that you need to have thousands of people following you as a digital coach. That could be even a person who's just helping 5 other people. Now, that is also creating an impact. So many people look at what I'm doing, or they look at, say, what Rajiv is doing, and we have many other experts in us, and they feel, okay, this is the benchmark. But actually, that's not true. There could be so many levels, different grades of coaches that are there. So my first answer to the question is anybody can coach, because everybody has something to share. Everybody has a message. They just need to identify what that message is. And I cover that in my book. So in my book, the first part is about how to plan. So in the planning part, I get into how to find your topic, how to design a curriculum, and how do you structure the launch. The second part is the launch. How do you launch your courses? How do you build your influence to attract the right kind of people coming towards you? And the third part, I talk about how do you grow it further in terms of sales, because there are so many different funnels you can use. It does not have to be just a webinar funnel. There are so many different ways to market courses these days. And then how do you build and nurture tribes? And the last part is where I'm going to talk about how do you maximize your profitability by looking at alliances, partnerships, and multiple things. And besides that, we've got interviews with Jack Canfield. I have an interview with Blair Singer, who's one of my mentors, as well as Dr. John D. Martini from the movie The Secret. And we have more than 18 to 20 interviews that are power-packed of the leaders in the industry. So that's what the book is going to be all about. That's why the title of the book is You Can Coach. The message is a direct message to everyone that, yes, you can be a leader. You can build your own communities and you can help others with your knowledge.
Awesome. I'm so looking forward to the book. It's releasing in next few days, not a couple of days, but next few days. Pre-order is already available. So I'll link that up in the description of this episode. So if you want to just, pre-order the book, just go ahead and do that, because Sid is the man of value. And as I mentioned, right, I really appreciate the way he does things, which is he, talks about things holistically. Even on the internet era, you will find like people just talking about the one thing, but he's like, hey, wait, you can pick up the skills, but it's just not going to get you result if you don't work on the other aspects of your life. Or maybe you might be successful in one thing and then, everything else can be really, scattered. So you want to put all those pieces together. So Sid, now I have a round, which I call is an enlightening round. So I'm going to ask some questions to you and, just shoot some short answers to each of these questions. Okay?
Sure. Let's do it.
What inspires you to do everything that you do?
My 2 kids. Love them, and whatever I want to do is to inspire them and probably model what I'm doing and do better than me. That's what inspires me.
What is the one wrong belief about yourself that you've held for the longest period of time?
I had this belief that I cannot change. So I would tag myself saying, okay, I'm just an introvert. All these tags. So the day I went through all these different training programs, once I realized that I can change, or I can just drop those tags and be a different person, or I can work towards becoming a different version of myself. That's where everything changed. So just to reiterate, I was just a geeky sound engineer behind a laptop making music, and I thought that's who I am. And until I went to the training programs, realizing that that's one part of me, but I could also be this. Somebody who's outgoing, out there, doing things online, not just sitting behind the system. So that was a huge belief shift that I had. And I also tell people in my community, like, you can be both ends of the spectrum. Be spiritual, be material. Be, introvert and extrovert. If you're able to push yourself without having tags, technical, non-technical, or all people put all kind of tags to themselves, right? Once you're able to play both the sides of the spectrum using the word and, you can be this and that, then the game changes.
Wow, I think that's powerful. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So if you have to, let's say, credit everything that you have been able to do in your life to one habit of yours, daily habit of yours, what would that be?
I listen to The Strangest Secret in the World every single day by Earl Nightingale. Huge shifts. I've been doing it for 3 years now.
Awesome. What do you want to be remembered for?
The guy that transformed the education system.
Can you share a book or two that has influenced you personally in the recent past?
Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. It's written by a Jewish priest, and he brings in a spiritual angle to creating wealth. Amazing book, Thou Shalt Prosper. And the second one is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's called Becoming Supernatural. Amazing. He's decoded science and spirituality, literally. I mean, people think meditation is some voodoo stuff, but actually this guy has put sensors on people's brains and analyzed what happens when people meditate and stuff. It's an amazing book, Becoming Supernatural. Yeah.
If there is someone in the position where you were in 2011, kicked out of job, or maybe not kicked out of job, maybe in the position where they just don't have any clue of what to do next in the life, what would be your message?
My message is invest in yourself and learn from people who are really getting results. Don't hold anything back. Just go full on.
Awesome. I have one last question that I want to ask you, Sid. But before I ask you that question, if people would like to learn more about you, get in touch with you, what is the best possible way?
I think the best place is to connect with me on my YouTube channel. I've got a lot of videos. I keep sharing a lot of case studies. So just look me up on my YouTube channel and you can do that. I have my podcast called the Freedom Business Podcast. And I share a lot of in-depth concepts in the podcast, 15-20 minutes. Just going to be restarting a lot of interviews, but I do a lot of research. That means I spend at least 2-3 hours researching before I share a 15-minute audio. So please subscribe to my podcast called the Freedom Business Podcast. Yeah.
Super. I'll link all of that on the description of this episode. Make sure you check and follow this guy, especially if you are somebody who's looking at starting yourself in the online business journey, in the online education business, where you have something that you want to share with the world and you want to learn where do I begin. Sid is your man. Just check him out. A lot of value, a lot of content. And if you feel like, then you can obviously sign up for his, courses and programs, but also on his YouTube and the blogs that he writes and the podcast he shares. So tons of stuff. So Sid, here's the last question for you.
Yes.
You do quite a bit of a speaking gig. Imagine that you are standing on a stage at a stadium, and this is the largest stadium that has ever been built in the history of the world. There are millions and millions of people on that stadium, eagerly and passionately waiting to listen to you. And you have been given only 1 minute of the time to share the most important lesson that you have learned in your life. What would be your message?
My message to all of you here is that you are born for greatness. The fact that you're alive, it only means that there is something for you to do in this world to create an impact in somebody else's life. And to have more than you got. I love this quote by Jim Rohn. To have more than you got, you have to become more than you are. And success is not something what you pursue. It is something that you have to attract by being an attractive person. And it's not about physical attractiveness. It's by bringing out that beauty that's already there in you, which is hiding for years and years and years. So my message to all of you here, the stadium here, is identify what is that spark in you and fan that spark. Let it shine, because you being alive, it shows that somebody out there is waiting to be impacted by you. That's my message. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Siddharth Rajsekar. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Siddharth's book, You Can Coach, is available on Amazon. I have put the link in the description. Don't forget to check that if you'd like to build a digital business. Also, if you'd like to learn a step-by-step process of building your digital coaching business, I can't recommend enough Siddharth's Freedom Business Model course. I have put the link for the course with a very special offer on the description of this episode. I'm myself a student of his course and I found it extremely valuable. I'm sure you will too. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll see you in the next. Now, go out there and do something inspired.